welcome. I'm really happy to have you all here today and excited to share with you this amazing, the amazing presentation we have today. My name is Lorraine Charles, and I am the Executive Director of NAMO, one of the co-hosts of the summit today. So welcome. The Migration Summit 2022, organized by MIT Refugee Action Hub, NAMO, Karam Foundation Paper Airplanes, and the MIT Abdul Latif Jameel World Education Lab, is a month-long convening designed to build bridges between diverse communities of displaced learners, universities, companies, non-profits and NGOs, social enterprises, foundations, philanthropists, researchers, policymakers, around key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. This year, we're exploring the theme of education and workforce development in displacement through virtual events hosted by participating partners around the world. Today, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Education for Employment. Today, we will hear from Ghadeer and Elizabeth and their colleagues from Education for Employment. They will discuss the trends, challenges, and successes within the livelihood space for refugees, particularly in regards to women, technology, and the changes in the marketplace following COVID-19 in Jordan. The panel aims to address the overarching question about refugee livelihoods in Jordan. Who does it work for? So I just want to say very quickly that Ghadeer and I met a long time ago in Dubai, before NAMO was even conceived, when EFE were just sort of, embarking in a new phase of the development. And I'm really excited to have her here today. And I'm really impressed with everything that she's done. I've interviewed her twice for 2 different pieces of research. She's taken me out for dinner in Amman. So we know each other pretty well. I'm really excited to have her here. So Ghadeer and Elizabeth and everyone else, over to you.
Thank you so much for this warm introduction. And yes, we go back a long time ago, since Dubai and then Amman. And I'm always happy to be able to share what we do within EFE, and always meet with our partners, individuals or companies, and all of that. So first of all, I'd like to thank you so much for hosting and organizing this summit. We're so happy to be part of it. I'd like to welcome people who have joined us today, and I'd like to encourage them to visit our website, www.efe.org, to learn more about our programs. Today, we're going to highlight part of what we are doing within EFE, which is helping refugees in Jordan, which has been our mission for the past several years because of the political environment in our region and the number of refugees Jordan has been hosting for the past several years. And I'm very happy to be joined today by Cheyenne Qasim, Deputy Country Director of AFD, the French development agency in Jordan. Hamdan Yaqub, the head of the Syrian Crisis Response Unit in the Ministry of Labor. My colleague Lizzie Clark, the Partnerships and Business Development Manager. And Yamama Musa, one of the Syrian refugee alumni that who joined EFE, one of the EFE's programs, and Salam Muhammad, another nice lady from the Syrian refugees who have received our programs in the past. If you allow me, I would like to share my screen. 1 second. Okay, and I want to share a very short video with you. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Okay.
هلا قبل ما اشتغل ما كان عندي هدف نهائيا، سوالي حالة نفسية اني انا منغلقة عن المجتمع، انا ما بعرف شو عم بصير برا. لما اشتغلت انفتحت على المجتمع كثير وتعلمت كثير اشياء، وصرت أنا بحس حالي من ضمن هذا المجتمع. أنا مالي كسورية، أنا منهم وفيهم، وبتعامل معهم كأنهم هن صاروا أهلي.
We started
Sorry, Ghadeer, we don't have any video. We don't have any videos. This sound,
I
but no video.
apologize. Okay, just give me one more second then. Okay, I apologize. It's always these tech stuff. 1 second. I apologize. تعالي انقذي الموقف. لا it's fine. بس هذا مش عم يفتح. Okay, in the meantime, until this is fixed, I hope you can still hear me. I can tell you a little bit about EFE. So EFE is a non-profit organization. It's established in 2006, and we are part of an affiliate network. We are in Jordan, Palestine, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, with support offices in the US, Madrid, and Dubai. We have been training youth in different programs around the world, around the MENA region, specifically where we work. As the whole network, we have trained more than 130,000 youth around the affiliate offices, and we're able to link these youth with the private sector with jobs. Our approach is very much demand-driven, and we train youth and link them with economic opportunities in the end. During our programs, we tailor them for different tracks, and you will learn more about it as we move forward with the video and then the slides. I hope you can hear it now. Let's try one more time. Can you now?
Yes.
هلا قبل ما اشتغل ما كان عندي هدف نهائيا. سوالي حالة نفسية اني انا منغلقة عن المجتمع، انا ما بعرف شو عم بصير برا. لما اشتغلت انفتحت على المجتمع كثير وتعلمت كثير اشياء، وصرت انا بحس حالي من ضمن هذا المجتمع. انا مالي كسورية، انا منهم وفيهم، وبتعامل معهم كأنهم هن صاروا اهلي.
We started working with refugees in Jordan because we believe they are part of the social cohesion in Jordan, and we provide them with skills that will help them whether they stay in Jordan or go back to their home one day or travel with the skills somewhere else.
It's been a lot of challenges since the beginning. It was very important to adapt to the legislation because the Syrians can't do all the jobs in Jordan. So we try to find some solution to propose them some trainings related to their skills, but also to working opportunities here in Jordan.
I know that young people in Morocco, in Egypt, Palestine, Jordan are very talented, and all they need is opportunity. And this is what we do at EFE. Being a Palestinian refugee, I was always blessed with people around me who gave me opportunities. And working with Education for Employment enables me from giving these opportunities to other young people.
ما كنت حاس حالي فعال لأنه ما في لا وظيفة لا دراسة، ماني قدران أكمل شيء، عايش بحالة بين الوعي واللاوعي. EFE حسيتهم الوطن الثاني لإلي أو الحضن الثاني، حضن الوطن لما احتضنونا أنا وزملائي السوريين بالأردن. يعني هن ساعدوني بإني لاقي وظيفة، كانوا يجيبوا لنا مجموعة شركات من داخل الأردن طبعاً، ومن خلالهم أنا توظفت. خليت سيكشن الصندقة على أساس إنه يجيني منه مردود مالي، وإني كمل من خلال عملي، يعني الدخل اللي بيوصلني ممكن إني أوفر جزء مالي منه لحتى أقدر أكمل دراستي بالجامعات هون.
EFE has done a lot of work recently with refugees. So we've had great success in the hospitality sectors, in some of the construction sectors, in some IT sectors to get refugees the ability to work.
بحس حالي إني أنا مو لاجئة أو مغتربة، بحس حالي إني أنا بوطني، وهذا الشيء كثير بريحني بالنسبة لي.
مادياً بعد ما أنا اشتغلت وأخذت الشغل أكيد مادياً استفدت كثير، صار في إلي دخل، صرت أحس حالي حدا فعال بالمجتمع.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching the short video, but we thought this is going to put you in the environment of what we're doing. And to continue with what I started saying about EFE, as I mentioned, we're there from 2006. We concentrate a lot on the women empowerment, and more than 65% of our beneficiaries are women, and at least 85% of our graduates are linked with jobs. In Jordan, we have trained more than 18,000 youth, and as I mentioned earlier, as all of the affiliates, we trained more than 130,000 youth. Our cycle starts always with a market assessment to understand the jobs needed in the market, because everything we do is demand driven. We develop the curriculum accordingly, according to what the private sector needs. And then we reach to the youth and we do the matching before we even start any training courses. Matching happens before we start even the training, because it's important to link the right youth with the right skills, with the right programs. We conduct the training and develop the skills programs in a way that enables them to learn work readiness programs and also technical or vocational as needed. And then, of course, comes the job placement for these youth and supporting them with income generation activities. Along the way, we have the M&E, the monitoring and evaluation part of the whole program. Our core tracks are basically the job training and placement that ends with full-time jobs. The second track is the self-employment track, and this was one of the important tracks that we benefited refugees with, because as we will learn a bit later from my colleague Hamdan, will tell us more about the regulations in the Ministry of Labor. Some of the sectors were closed for the refugees, so we had to invent other options for them to be able to generate incomes. So the job training and placement for them in some of the sectors, but also allowing them and enabling them to work from home in lots of cases so that they are able to generate income. Online freelancing track, which has been a great program we piloted together with the AFD, the French Development Agency, that showed great success, specifically for refugees in Jordan. And there is a program that we call Finding a Job is a Job, and specifically for university students who we help them find jobs themselves. There are other supplementary tracks involved about upskilling employees, career counseling for public schools, national awareness campaigns, and support the public and private sectors. In Jordan, we have trained more than 3,000 refugees so far, and as I mentioned perhaps earlier in the video, refugees form a very important element of the Jordanians population, and we have to direct our attentions to helping them live a decent life in Jordan, and this happens through enabling them to work and obtain a decent work. Most of the refugees we have helped in Jordan in the past were Syrians, and a few Palestinians and other Iraqis, Sudanese, Libyans, Somalis, and Yemenis. We always thank our partners, of course, who have been helping us, supporting us in these initiatives and these programs that we have been always concentrating on. These are the slides. And now I would like to turn to Cheyenne from the AFD, who is going to help us let us know more about the AFD and your programs related to refugees in particular, as part of the bigger scope of AFD in Jordan, which definitely also focuses on Jordanians, but also with special care to refugees in Jordan. To you, Cheyenne.
Thank you very much, Ghadeer, and thank you for this opportunity to present a bit of the activities of AFD in Jordan. AFD has been active in Jordan for the past 16 or 17 years now. And since 2017, so not long ago actually, and after the beginning of the Syrian refugee crisis, we had the chance to have a dedicated grant window to fund some projects to benefit to the most vulnerable people, including the Syrian refugees. And at that time, and given the fact that we didn't have much money to fund some project, we launched a study to identify the priority needs for the most vulnerable people in Jordan. And at that time, 5 years ago, the assessment was actually pretty large, and we funded several projects in several sectors, such as the water sector, which was historically the big sector of intervention of AFD, but with the government to fund, for instance, to finance some wastewater treatment plant. With the window, we used part of the funding for social components in order to work with the government to improve the global infrastructures in the water sector, but to allocate some of the funding and the grant funding to improve the living conditions of the most vulnerable people through delivery of basic services and basic infrastructures, for instance. That was one part. We also identified through the study that as the number of refugees was growing in Jordan, there was a real issue of social cohesion. And we could see in some areas that the services delivered to the populations should be improved in order to decrease the tensions between the two populations, the most vulnerable Jordanians and the Syrian refugees. So we worked with the Jordanian civil defense, for instance, to improve the equipments in terms of response to all risk in terms of ambulances and intervention vehicles in many kinds, but to improve in the areas where there was some tensions, the possibility and the capacities of the Jordanian government to deliver the services to all the populations, no matter the Jordanians or refugees. That was another sector, and in the end we reconducted the same assessment, the same study 1 year ago to see if we should adapt our context, our intervention through this grant window. And actually we saw some differences. 5 years ago, one of the major flow for the refugees and the most vulnerable people was the delivery of services. And now, actually, it was no surprise to us and no surprise to EFE staff. The main challenge is the employment. Provide job opportunities to the refugees, because we are talking about people and families who settled 10 years ago, 5 years ago, with the hope at that time to go elsewhere and return back to home or elsewhere in other countries. And 5 years later, the situation has not changed fundamentally. So they needed to access to the job market. And Ghadeer mentioned it. There are some sectors that are open to refugees. And there is a mismatch between the basic skills of the people in looking for a job and the actual job opportunities. So we discussed a lot with all partners, NGOs, and governments to address this specific issue, and we launched a few years back a program with EFE to improve and to offer job opportunities through job placement, through soft skills training, through many components that would help in fine the refugees and Jordanian people to access the job market. And I wanted just to highlight the new program we have signed with EFE. So this will be the second one, and we signed a few weeks ago, and which will focus especially on the women empowerment. The women participation to the job market will be the priority of this project, and we are quite proud of this one, because this will be the first. I don't know if you are familiar with the OECD classification in terms of project impact. It's a DAC2 project, meaning that the reduction of inequalities between men and women will be the main and the priority of the project. So it's in the continuity of the previous program we had with EFE, but this time we'll have a clear focus on the women participation to the job market. And this is a pride to us, because this will be the first project in its kind for AFD in Jordan. I've tried to be as fast as possible, Ghadeer, because I know that there are a lot of people to talk after me, but I would be happy to give you more details if you want.
Thank you so much, Cheyenne, for this summary, for your partnership with EFE, for all the impact you are doing in Jordan with Jordanians and the refugees as well. And I would like to encourage everyone, as I move forward with the following speakers, to think about questions you might want to ask to Cheyenne or to any other speakers who are going to tell us more about their contribution over here. Now I'd like to move to Hamdan. Hamdan Yaqub works with the Ministry of Labor, as I mentioned earlier, and he could guide us towards the ministry's initiatives and how they are looking at the refugees in Jordan in terms of their work, and how they were able to facilitate achieving some decent jobs for the refugees in Jordan. So to you, Hamdan.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me for this event. Actually, it's a pleasure for me. As we all know, the Jordanian labor market is one of the main sectors affected by the refugees crisis and migrant workers due to different factors, large number of refugees, limited resources in Jordan, high unemployment rate, and already low economic growth rate. In terms of distributing international responsibilities in sharing the burdens of hosting Syrian refugees and within the axis of the Jordan Compact, the Ministry of Labor is taking a series of necessary action within this framework, represented by a set of procedures and measures necessary to prepare the instruction to become more flexible and easier for Syrians and refugees, including exemption from the work permit fees and the creation of types of work permits. We recently actually established a new type of work permits, a flexible one, which classifies work within occupational groups. so that worker can move between them freely and without restriction and with no other measures. Okay. The Ministry of Labor also supervises and leads the livelihood sector within the Jordan response plan to the Syrian crisis, which aims to ensure decent and sustainable livelihoods and create economic opportunities for both Syrian refugees and Jordanians in host communities. The sub-objectives of the sector includes enhancing access to job opportunities that are in line with decent work and national and international protection standards in the work environments. This goal cannot be achieved without systemic vocational education and training programs that are appropriate to our national priorities and standards also. The Ministry of Labor is working to direct international organizations and local community institutions through leading the livelihood sector team within the Jordan response plan to the Syrian crisis to strengthen vocational and technical training programs and mechanisms through projects implemented by international and local organizations and in partnership with official vocational training services providers and the private sector. This approach comes from the component of the GRP actually to be in line with the holistic international approach to dealing with the Syrian refugees crisis, which is represented in the Jordan Compact as an output from outcomes of the London Conference. And on the mutual commitments actually toward refugees between Jordan and the international community for transforming the crisis into an opportunities and to use the available human resources from the refugees and the host communities and work to train, rehabilitate, and develop it at the same time to support the private sector, especially the industrial sector, to benefit from existing and potential agreements, especially in the areas of investment and production and export. Accordingly, all parties to the response plan, including the livelihood sector, work to achieve development and the humanitarian goals that contribute to the development of the local community, refugees and other migrant workers, of which develop vocational training and education and the training policies, they develop vocational education and the training policies and the strategies, relying on the demand component in the labor market and directing training programs. The role of the private sector and its involvement in setting vocational training and education policies, develop vocational education and the training curricula, and the role of the training providers, regional coordination and the program promotion, the apprenticeship and their importance in building and investing the next generation, exchange of experiences between countries which similar experiences, skills development, experience recognition and prior learning and education, economic integration with the aim of maximizing economic benefit, training mechanism and the capacity of the training institutions, finally considering the future of work paths and skills. Actually, in the end, I would like to thank you and thank actually EFE for the distinguished role as an active partner in the livelihood sector, for its innovative methods of promoting employment through the development of learning mechanism and vocational and technical rehabilitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hamdan, for this great summary informing us about the policies and the overall approach the Ministry of Labor is taking in Jordan towards the refugees. So thank you so much. Now I'd like to invite my colleague Lizzie from EFE, as I mentioned earlier, who is going to ask our two alumni, Yamama and Salam, who have been part of our programs within EFE. Lizzie is going to ask them some questions and kindly translate from Arabic to English and from English to Arabic. So to you, Lizzie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have two of our alumni with us today who are going to be speaking about their experiences coming to Jordan and working here. We have with us Yamama, who you guys saw a moment ago in the video, as well as Salam. And also just a logistical remark that the three of us are actually sitting together right now, but so that we're not toggling between the volume and the microphones, they're going to be speaking through my microphone. So you might want to change the rearrangement of the screen so that you can see Yamama and Salam as well, because otherwise it's going to be just me that's showing on the screen. But Yamama, I'd like to ask you first, can you tell us about when you came to Jordan from Syria and your experience in general?
اوكي انا اسمي يمامة موسى جدايا، عمري 30 سنة، اجيت على الأردن سنة 2013. تجربتي كانت يعني أول سنتين ثلاثة ما كان في أي تجربة نهائيا، لأني كنت بدون شغل ولا أي شيء، كنت قاعدة يعني ما تعلمت ولا أي شيء.
So Yamama came to Jordan from Syria in 2013, and the first 2 to 3 years of that experience after moving were very difficult because she was not working at the time. And so Salam, can you tell us about your experience coming to Jordan?
Hello, اسمي سلام محمد البريدي. عمري 25 سنة ودخلت على الأردن ب 2013 بحثاً عن الأمن والأمان اللي كنت أفتقده في وطني سوريا.
So
mute.
So Salam is 25 years old and she came to Jordan in 2013. So can you guys both tell me about what you were studying or working as before you came, and how did your plans change after you came to Jordan?
أنا كنت أدرس توجيهي، فما كملت التوجيهي بسبب الحرب، كان عندي مواد تكميلية. فلما أجيت على الأردن قعدت فترة منيحة مثل ما حكيت أول شيء. بعدين درست دبلوم إدارة أعمال. بعد هيك سمعت عن منحة EFE للتجميل. أنا كنت كتير بحب التجميل. بعدين رحت درست مع EFE فترة معينة وظفوني.
So at the time before Yamama came to Jordan from Syria, she was preparing to finish high school and was not able to do so at the time because of the war. And so she came to Jordan and had worked on a diploma initially before she found out about EFE's programming. And then she registered with us later, and she'll tell us about her experience in just a moment. And Salam, the same question for you. Tell us about what you were studying or doing before coming to Jordan.
قبل ما أجي أنا على الأردن كنت طالبة في المرحلة الثانوية في المدرسة. بعد ما أجيت على الأردن استطعت الحمد لله تكملة دراستي الثانوية، وبعدها حصلت على منحة لدراسة الصيدلة في جامعة الزيتون الأردنية وتخرجت عام 2020.
So Salam was also studying in Syria before she came to Jordan, and when she moved here afterwards, she was able to continue her studies, and in 2020 she finished a program for pharmaceuticals. So Yamama, can you tell us about your experience before participating in EFE's training and then the courses that you took?
أول شيء أنا ما كنت أشتغل، كنت أتدرب يعني بمكان معين، فما كان عاطيني أي فرص منيحة. بعدين لما درست مع EFE أعطوني فرص كتير منيحة، إني اشتغلت بمكان كتير كويس. بس قبل أنا ما كان عندي أي فرصة منيحة بسوق العمل نهائيا.
And can you tell us which training you took?
التجميل أنا nail technician.
Sure. So Yamama is saying that with the studies that she was doing, the diploma that she was studying in Jordan before taking EFE's course, that she wasn't getting or finding any good opportunities at the time. And so she enrolled with us in a beauty project where she learned how to become a nail technician and now works in a salon in Amman. And so, Salam, can you also tell us about your experience in the labor market in Jordan and the courses that you took with EFE?
Yes. بعد تخرجي من جامعة الزيتونة في تخصص الصيدلة، للأسف كانت صدمة الكبيرة إنه أنا كسورية ما بقدر أشتغل بهذا المجال. حسب قانون العمل الأردني لا يحق للجنسيات الأخرى مزاولة مهنة الصيدلة. هون بلشت أبحث عن بدائل لحتى أقدر أنا أشتغل وأكون فعالة في المجتمع. الحمد لله حصلت على منحة بالEFE، درست فيها إدارة مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي، وصقلت لي مهارات كتير كبيرة وفرت لي عمل بهذا المجال.
So Salam was surprised to find that when she graduated from Zaytuna University after studying pharmaceuticals, that she was not actually able to find work in this field. So as a Syrian, she was able to study pharmacy in Jordan, but then realized after graduating that this is actually one of the sectors, like Cheyenne mentioned, that is closed to refugees for work. And so when she realized this, she started looking for alternative options for a job, and she ended up enrolling in a program at EFE. So both of you guys, could you tell me what is the biggest lesson you've learned from your journey and that you want to share with others?
أنا أكثر شيء تعلمت أول شيء لما أجيت من سوريا كانت شخصيتي كثير ضعيفة. بعدين مع دراستي مع الEFE قوت لي كثير شخصيتي وصارت شخصيتي أحسن. الحياة ما بتوقف على شغلة معينة، لازم الواحد يطور من حاله، لازم يشتغل على حاله. الحياة ما بتوقف لا على حرب ولا على ضربة ولا على أي شيء. لازم تطوري من حالك، لازم تشتغلي، لازم ما تحكي إنه هذا الوطن مو وطني ما أفيده، ما تستفيدي أنت كمان. أنت بدك تعيشي بحياة طبيعية كتير مثل ما كنت تعيشيها قبل وأحسن. اللي بدي أشاركه مع الباقيين إنك أنت تطلعي اشتغلي، جربي، ادرسي، فيدي حالك وفيدي المجتمع اللي أنت فيه.
So your mom is saying that before coming to Jordan that she was shy in a certain way, but that coming here, her life didn't stop because she came to Jordan, and that war doesn't stop you, that leaving home doesn't stop you from trying to pursue your goals, and that you have to continue trying to push yourself. And Salam, I just want to take one step back. So what, if you could tell us what your current job is now after your training with EFE, and then the lesson that you've taken away from this experience that you want to share.
حاليا أنا الآن مديرة مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي، وبإضافة إلى أنه أنا استطعت أفتح شغلي الخاص بتصنيع منتجات طبيعية تجميلية للبشرة خالي من أي مواد كيميائية. بهذا الشغل أنا دمجت الأشياء تعلمتها من EFE التسويق، ودمجت كمان الأشياء اللي تعلمتها بتخصصي أنا الصيدلة. أكبر درس تعلمته بحياتي إنه الإنسان الذكي هو الإنسان اللي بيستطيع تغيير مساراته وخططه لتتناسب مع ظروفه.
So Salam is, I should also mention, she took one of our self-employment trainings that Ghadeer had talked about. And so she's currently producing different types of beauty products, natural beauty products that are free of harmful chemicals. And so she found a way to actually combine the knowledge that she gained studying pharmaceuticals, as well as the skills that she took during EFE's training, which included marketing and how to sell her products. And the lesson that she would like to share is pushing yourself and making the best out of your circumstances, whatever those may be. So that concludes the set questions that we have, but we just wanted to give you guys an introduction to some of our alumni. And so as Ghadeer said, please keep in mind if you have any questions, that in just a moment we'll be having a Q&A. And if you would like to ask our alumni or any of our other speakers anything, we'd be happy to give you more information.
Great. So thank you, Lizzie, and thank you, Salam and Yamama. This was very helpful, and I hope this encourages people who are watching us, joining us today, to ask more questions if they like to learn more about any of the topics that we discussed today, whether about EFE programs, anything within the AFD's strategies or the Ministry of Labor. I think we now open it for questions and answers, and I think I'm already seeing a few questions in the chat box. One question is asking us to speak about the digital freelancing that EFE has begun training on. Thank you for this question. I'm happy to answer it. So actually, during the Corona, we were implementing, before Corona, we were implementing a few programs. And then, of course, everyone was shocked with, and the whole economy and the whole sectors were disturbed with what was happening. And in order to continue our mission and to continue helping youth in Jordan generate income, we started thinking about different designs and different approaches towards our programs. In collaboration with different partners, we always think with as a think tank, we thought creating an online freelancing approach could be a very good solution to different refugees and Jordanians actually in Jordan. So we started this program where we believe there are lots of jobs usually in the market, but also there is a parallel universe of jobs that take place virtually. And we started finding and identifying these virtual jobs online, and then train our youth to be able to build their profiles on different platforms that enable them to become online freelancers, and also train them on different skills, technical skills in most of the cases, to enable them to become online freelancers on specific technical areas, such as, I'll give you examples. For example, we find that freelance graphic designers are needed online on virtual jobs. So somebody sitting in a different country is perhaps asking for a graphic design from, a service from somebody else, wherever they sit, whatever they're doing. So we train our youth to be able to bid on these opportunities, to price their levels of efforts, how to collect money, how to do the graphic design itself as a technical aspect as well. So these are areas that we developed within EFE, and we're able to deliver to our youth. We worked with different donors on that. AFD actually was the first we launched this program with. And then more donors and more supporters started funding us so that we help as many youth as possible. Some donors also, such as AFD, were also very generous to provide laptops for these people who need laptops, who need laptops to become online freelancers anyways. So it created a great opportunity for youth to be linked to these jobs actually. How do refugees find out about the EFE programs? Most of our applicants know about us from social media, both Jordanians and refugees, especially youth, and you all know about how youth are connected with the social media, and especially Facebook, Instagram, and others. So we post all our programs on our pages, Facebook pages and Instagram, LinkedIn pages that enable youth to learn more about us, and there are always links and telephone numbers that allow them to learn more about these programs. Are private sector employment partners in Jordan willing to meet you in the middle? It's easy to find companies looking for a cheap source of employees. Now, so this is a very good question. The economy in Jordan is really just like any other economy in the world, especially after the COVID-19, has been really facing difficulties recovering, and Jordan is one of them. So, but the employers understand the value of working with our own graduates, because they know that they have been trained, they are very connected with the private sector, and they were trained according to what the private sector wants. So they meet in the middle in terms of giving opportunities for the EFE graduates to be employed within their programs actually. What are the retention rates for refugees who secure employment through getting trained by EFE? What is the impact over time? This is a very good question. So now I will perhaps also turn to Hamdan after answering this question, but there are closed jobs and there are open jobs for refugees in Jordan. Full-time jobs in specific areas have been difficult for refugees to secure. So the job placement rate is usually around 80%, and the retention rate is usually around 70%. But this varies from one sector to the other, from one city to the other. And also, this is one of the reasons why we thought developing more programs around self-employment, such as what Salam is doing right now, for example, is another option that enabled them to start their own home-based businesses, that enable them to secure income. But perhaps, Hamdan, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the open sectors and the closed sectors in Jordan and how the government has dealt with this?
Yes, actually, as we all know, in Jordan we have different elements and factors that could affect our labor market situation. We have the high unemployment rate, and we have a big number of Jordanian graduates from college and universities with a specific specialties actually. Since the base here is most of the economic sectors in Jordan are open for refugees and migrant workers, but actually we have a closed profession within these sectors. As I mentioned before, because due to the high unemployment rates and the right of Jordanian of work also. So we have just like the professions in the medical field, just like doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and so on. Teachers also, it's closed actually. Engineering also closed. Administrative professions also closed. But we have also, as you know, the industrial sector, we have the agriculture, we have the construction, we have many actually opportunities for Syrians and refugees and also migrant workers.
Thank you, Hamdan. Lauren, I'm checking your question. It's a very interesting one, and if you allow me, I'll try to jump in over here. You're asking about how the government considers freelancers, and I think this question goes for both refugees and Jordanians as well, because working as freelancers is the informal sector in the end. And how do they deal with it? Do they allow refugees to work remotely for foreign companies in the tech sector? I think the question is not only whether the refugees are allowed, also if Jordanians are allowed to work as freelancers in the end. But I get your question regarding the ICT sector, because in normal cases, yes, refugees do not work in the ICT sector in Jordan, but the online freelancing is not yet regulated by the government anyways, because there are international platforms that people go to and people apply to, bid to, and be able to contribute to. It's not regulated by the government. It's still in the informal sector. So of course, there are more benefits in the formal sector for Jordanians and Syrian refugees and refugees in general, which also goes to another question I have seen about the ILO definition of the decent jobs and the decent job environments, and whether the online freelancing secure that or not. That's also a great question. As part of the training programs we provide our youth who become online freelancers, we help them identify the risks that they might feel or face on the platforms that they work with as freelancers, and how to mitigate that, how to protect themselves from any sort of harassment, even online sort of struggle they might face. And we train them for that, and we we also mentor them in case there is anything they like to share with us, or if they need support in anything else. There are always risks in all of the sectors that we provide our youth with specific training to have them enroll into a decent work environment for sure, which is very essential to us. Another question, do you have any experience in establishing pathways for employment within the humanitarian sector, so the refugees can support humanitarian operations as camp management and so on, also outside the context of Jordan, if that better applies? Thank you for your question. We have been trying to work in the camps, in the refugee camps themselves. So far, EFE has not worked inside the Syrian refugee camps, but we have worked inside one of the Palestinian refugee camps, which has its own characteristics. So we work with partners, we call them community-based organizations, where they sometimes provide humanitarian services for the refugees, and we come in to complement it with the livelihood support for people who need these sorts of support in order to generate income. So we don't necessarily, as EFE, do humanitarian operations or humanitarian support, but we partner with several partners who concentrate on that, and then we complement each other by providing youth with the skills needed so that they can generate income. I hope I answered the questions. I'm trying to
Ghadeer, why don't I jump in here for a minute, because there's a question for Yamama and Salam. So Danan, you're in response to your question, the first one for EFE is whether or not our Finding a Job as a Job training provides training for online job applications, or it's only focusing on freelance jobs. So the online freelancing track is something separate that came as a result of the Corona era. The Finding a Job as a Job training is actually something that predates that era. So that training, again, is a short-term 3 to 5 day training targeting university students that provides them with the skills to conduct a job hunt. So it's focusing on how to network, how to make a profile on LinkedIn, how to sit for an interview, how to put together a CV. So the course content for that particular curriculum is going to focus on both the online job application process as well as the in-person interview process. And then I see you have a second question for Yamama and Salam. How did you hear about EFE and get enrolled in the program, and was it through social media? فأنتوا كيف سمعتوا عن البرنامج؟ يعني عن طريق إعلان على السوشيال ميديا ولا كيف؟
أنا أول شيء بعد ما درست الدبلوم إدارة الأعمال أنا ما اشتغلت فيها وظليتني قاعدة بالبيت، فصحباتي بيعرفوني إني هوايتي التجميل، إجوا خبروني إنه في منحة للEFE موجودة تجميل، إجيت وقابلت فيها وفعلا بعد فترة قصيرة درست فيها.
So Yamama actually found out about our program through some friends who saw one of our advertisements. Okay, so her friends saw the advertisement on social media and informed her about it because they know that she's interested in beauty. So they let her know, thinking that she might be interested in it, and then she checked it out and ended up registering.
Yes, on social media.
Salam, through social media as well, through Facebook.
Yes,
Facebook. Yeah.
Thank you, Lizzie. I'd like to also mention that we have a strong relationship with the UNHCR, which is the UN agency taking care of the refugees in Jordan, and they have a great database of refugees where we share our ads with them, and then they post it on their links and channels and so on. And this is also how we get in touch with more applicants, Syrian applicants in particular. If the time allows, I'd like to ask Cheyenne, if you could very quickly let us know whether you have plans as AFD to work with other refugees in Jordan other than the Syrian refugees. Perhaps we're curious to know more about your plans in the future. Cheyenne?
Yeah, and this will be this will not be an answer to your question, because this year we are waiting for the new doctrine in terms of this financing tool we have in the grant tool we have. So basically this will be discussed by the French government this year. But I'd like to take this opportunity to come back just 1 second on the questions related to the freelancing, because actually those were the same questions we we had at AFD level. We are talking about informal sector. We are talking about people without access to the national social protection system unless voluntary contribution. And we are talking about ILO standards. So how could we fit to our those international standards, which are also ours at AFD? And it's important to mention the fact that initially the program we had with EFE targeted especially the hospitality sector, which is one of the sector open for work for refugees. And COVID-19 happened. With lockdown in Jordan, with a very huge impact on the hospitality sector. So we had to adapt with EFE, and EFE came with this pilot project to start with a few beneficiaries of the program, a new approach with this freelancing tools and trainings, and we started that in this very specific context, and at that time, and we do not regret it, we chose to be pragmatic, to be practical in order to address the issues of employment as much as we could through this joint program with EFE. And this was, we just to say that we had the same concern, the same comments, the same questions, and we had a huge debates with our headquarters on this. And in the end, EFE came up with this freelancing approach, which is to me quite a success, at least for the pilot project, which is already achieved, and therefore our willingness to continue the discussion. But in the same time, we would also like to discuss with the government, with the Social Security Corporation, on how to integrate those people, for instance, into those the national social protection system.
Right.
Just wanted to mention this context.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. I think this brings us to the last minute of the session, handing it to Lorraine, maybe if you want to have some closing remarks of this session, and thank you again.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think that there's definitely a lot of interest in the digital freelancing remote workspace. For everyone in the audience, we have a few more sessions on digital livelihoods for refugees. I invite you to join them. And Hamdan and Shema, I'll definitely get in touch with you about this because I think there's a lot of interest in this space. Everyone else in the audience, thank you so much for being here. Ghadeer, Elizabeth, everyone, thank you very much. And we invite you to attend our other sessions, and thank you. Ramadan Kareem to everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.